Welcome home, racing fans. Well, it's a pretty exciting time down here. We finally got the Policar 330 P4 in, the Ferrari. A lot of people have been anxiously awaiting this car for good reason, and we finally got it in. So our spring and summer is starting to heat up a little bit down here. On the outside, I think they've done a pretty good job. Nothing's perfect. There's all sorts of folks out there that are going to count rivets and nitpick here and there, but overall I think the car is pretty well done on the outside. Very nice shine, clear coat and everything over it. As far as the logos and stuff go, well, I can just tell you now, you can see that I've exposed the Ferrari logo due to the licensing or lack thereof. It is covered with tape. As you can see here, it's easily removed. Now on my model, on the front, we've had some cracking on the tampo here. Policar is well aware of that. I was speaking to them online. You can just barely see the Ferrari logo. It seems like it's covered with the tampo. I wouldn't advise scraping that off, but you know, if it just means that much to you that you have to see it, well, good luck with that. I'm not going to scrape anything off. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. But anyway, on the outside, I think it's a good looking effort. Certainly something that I've been looking forward to. Can't wait to get inside and take a look. And I have to tell you the truth, I already have. We've got some things to discuss under here. We do have the Sidewinder pod and everything. We have adjustable front axle height and everything. But there's some things inside here that we need to discuss. Some good, some bad. So we're going to get right to it. Okay, so when we get inside, one of my major concerns right off the bat for a lot of you guys is the fact that they have used an M2 set screw inside here on both sides to secure this motor, to keep it from rocking in the mount. But I got to tell you, these are very hard to see. Now, I've backed this one out a little bit, so hopefully you can see it. But if it wasn't for the fact that I was inspecting it so close, you would have missed them. Now, I get it. The screws help, the motor from rocking, but they're very hard to see. There's nothing about, no documentation in the box or anything, which is always missing, by the way, about this. And I can just see some guys trying to pry this motor out, not seeing these. You think, well, that'll never happen. Yeah, it will. So a regular motor mount screw would have worked perfectly here. I put one right here, and it clears the spur gear and everything just fine. So I don't understand the use of these screws. They're just very hard to see. Just one good old regular screw right here would have done the trick. But I want you guys to be aware of it for those that are going to be changing the motor out and stuff. There's two on each side, so make sure you have a good wrench and you get them out first. So the second concern I have is the fact that out of the box, this car with the screws tightened down with the pod, it's kind of not parallel. The wheelbase is almost a mil off, and that's because the pod won't move. Even if you loosen the screws, it will not move. On my model, I even took both these out, still didn't move. Backed them all the way out, and what we found out is and discussing with Policar, is they used a fully threaded screw here. If you can see it, it's fully threaded instead of the ones that have the smooth shoulder like you see in the slot at GT40s and other classics in their pods, to allow the pod to move. And the tolerance between the chassis and the pod, in my opinion, isn't as good as it should be, but with these it would have helped. But what I had to do, since I didn't have spare screws, is I had to take a file and file out these chassis mount holes in order to get these threads to clear so the pod was free to move. So now I do have some float now because I filed that out. There, I lost my screw, but now I have some float. But out of the box, you're not going to get any float unless you modify that chassis or replace these screws. And I have to say, this is my most critical judgment here. I think this is just unnecessary. Policar stated in our discussion online there on Facebook that in the future they hope to use these other screws, but you know, this is all slotted here. Let's don't be fooled. They have plenty of these screws. Why they decided to use these is beyond me. There cannot be a cost difference between this screw and the proper screw. So with a car like this under the new Policar brand name, I just think this kind of thing is just completely unnecessary. Obviously with a pod, you're intending this to be a performance level car for people to tune to match the GT40 as it should, Ford versus Ferrari and everything. You've got an adjustable front axle with set screws top and bottom. You got a good guide. Just no reason for it. So please be aware of that. So if you're looking to try to get some float and tune this car, you're either going to have to file out these chassis holes or order some set screws. So for the rest of the inside, we have the standard motor. They say it's a new motor, but it's just got a different circuit board here for RF and everything. It's I bench tested it 23,600 RPM. That's about normal. No alarm bells here. Just a different little configuration. You know, some people complained about the plastic rear wheels. You know, and I get it. For most normal home racers, round is round. These are pretty round. They're pretty good wheels, and they're smooth enough. But I do understand that, you know, for a car that has obviously been designed for performance, because if it wasn't, why put the pod in here? Why put the adjustable front axle here? Put aluminum wheels in the back. Don't force the guys to go out there and get aluminum wheels. The cost difference, if you're talking $5 a car, the guys are going to pay it. We do it all the time. So I get it both ways. I'm not unhappy with these wheels. They're pretty good, but you know, for the club level competition racers, it is a big deal. So I see it either way. So it's up to you to decide. Like I said, the front axle, it does have the set screws top and bottom, so that's a good thing. Like I said, we have a good guide right here. The stock slotted rubber, which it is stamped slotted, of course, because that's what this is. With the new designated numbers. You know, I mean, if you like stock rubber, it's there. Me, I'm going to change it out. The final thing I want to warn you about is this spare tire back here, the little plastic simulated tire. Be very careful working with this car. These little stands back here, they're not that strong. You could break them off, so just be careful when handling it. But otherwise, like I said, you know, there's a few things here that really could have been avoided. It's not like Slotted doesn't know how to build a car. This isn't a new company, so I think this whole screw issue and these M2 set screws here that are hidden, just kind of unnecessary to me, but that's just me. But anyway, I'm going to put some quick slicks on the back of this car. I've got it loosened up right now, and we're going to give it a road test. Well, there is one more thing I want to discuss, and that's the front of this guide here. When you're turning, I noticed it is rubbing the chassis right there. So my best advice is to snap this guide out if you're going to use it, and just kind of file down this top leading edge so it doesn't make contact with the chassis, because as it is rubbing right there. So due to the fitment of the guide, it is pretty good. You really can't put a spacer there, so just a little trim there on top and you should be okay. Okay, so for tires, I only use quick slicks for silicones or Paul Gauge for urethane because I care how they run. For the sizes, CB35F, I like the firm compound for my silicone here. Fits the wheel just fine, just as good as it can get. And Paul Gauge, I like the 2010 5LM, the lower profile. That really fits good, easily sanded, still gives you plenty of clearance. So if you're interested in some aftermarket tires, these are what I use.